산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. I think that's how it goes. A mountain is a mountain. Water is water. That's how the saying goes. It's a saying by a very famous, popular monk in South Korea, written many books, and that saying is the subject of a lot of inner searching and mockery, laughter, curiosity, and what's the word when you just give up? I rarely ever use that word, so it just doesn't even register in my mind. And it's on that one really big stock market chart. Anyway, it's that word. I just got a tweet from one of our followers that said, you know, Bitcoin is just whales playing games. Sometimes, actually fairly often, what goes on inside your mind hits the real world, hits the external world, and gets written in a tweet, gets recorded in a voicemail, if you're still using voicemails, gets recorded on YouTube, and you can observe it, but very few people ever do. Very few people ever notice, and you're still wondering why I'm not rich, I'm not successful, I'm not happy. If you're rich, successful, happy, healthy, you don't have to watch this. I mean, you've already got it. Especially if you're content, you don't have to watch this. The vast majority of human beings, especially the ones that I personally come across in my replies, in my comments, in my email inbox and so on, are obviously not happy or content. They might be relatively rich or wealthy, but they might not feel rich or wealthy. Which in itself is an issue. Kind of like a beautiful woman that doesn't feel beautiful. So what's the solution? Well, before you ask for the solution, why not start by identifying the problem? You might think that the problem is not feeling happy, not feeling content, not feeling successful, not feeling wealthy, even if you are. That's actually just a symptom. Feelings are symptoms. Feelings are not the source of a problem. Feelings are like your tachometer. Feelings are like the thermometer. The thermometer reading 100 degrees isn't what's causing this heat wave. The humidity level reading 100 degrees or 100% isn't what's causing this rainstorm. The Richter scale at 8.0 isn't what's causing this earthquake. Are you getting the point? Your feelings aren't what's causing your problems. Your feelings are just gauges. They're like this gauge that tells you, hey, I'm leaving happiness, going into anger, and going from anger to depression. But since your feelings are generally the only things that you can actively notice, you tend to think that's where your problems start. And you try and change your feelings. And you do it through drugs, you do it through alcohol, you do it through sex, you do it through games, extreme sports, whatever you do. And basically what you're doing is you're basically breaking the tachometer, you're breaking the thermometer, you're taking that Richter scale and taking a steamroller and rolling right over the Richter scale and hoping that the rain will stop, the earthquake will abate, and the heat will stop being so hot. A lot of you are unhappy, not wealthy, not successful, and you're frustrated by that. You want to be wealthy, successful, and that's why you're in Bitcoin. That's why you're in cryptocurrency. You're thinking that's your solution. That's your salvation. That's kind of like thinking that a rung on a ladder will save you from a flood. Your salvation is actually a cool, dry place. The rung on the ladder is just one stepping stone, one stepping rung that lets you get to that cool, dry place. Just like you made the mistake of thinking that your feelings were the source of your problem, you're making the same mistake of thinking that Bitcoin is the solution to your problems. Cryptocurrency is the altcoins, or the alt season is a degree is, a job is, marriage is, a relationship is, moving is the solution to my problems. Again, same mistake. So, what is the problem? What is the answer to the problem? In order to find the answer, you have to first find the question. What is the question? 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. A mountain is a mountain. Water is water. I got a tweet from one of our followers that said, Bitcoin trading, it's just whales playing games. What does that sound like to you? To me, that sounds like a rock. It's just a rock. Actually, it sounds more like dust, not even dirt. Dirt at least has fertile properties. It just sounds like dust. It sounds like, you know, when you're done barbecuing, you get all this charcoal dust at the bottom of the barbecue. It sounds like that. It sounds like ash, just ash, inert ash that can't do anything. That's not useful for anything. And if you tend to move it around, it'll just get in your eyes and blind you even further. That's what it sounds like to me. So ash is just ash. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. And ash is ash. You think the Koreans that heard that expression, 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다, ever actually really sat there and thought about what that meant? Why is this bald guy with this orange robe saying that a mountain is a mountain and water is water? Most people might have gotten that far and asked that question. But the first answer is, well, duh. Of course a mountain is a mountain and water is water. So is an ash is an ash. Is ashes are ashes. You ever see a bison? I think it's a bison. In order to corral this animal, all you have to do is put a real thin sheet, just a cloth sheet up in front of the bison and it'll stop moving. All you have to do is surround it with a cloth sheet. And it's so strong. It's as strong as what, 3 horses. It could just plow through. It's got horns and stuff. It can plow through that sheet. It's just a cotton sheet. It might even be plastic. It might just be a plastic sheet. I don't know, but I've seen them being corralled. And the moment you put the sheet up, bam, that's it. To that bison, it's not a sheet, is it? To that bison, it's a solid granite cliff is a solid granite cliff. It's a titanium wall is a titanium wall to that bison. A mountain is a mountain, water is water, ashes are ashes, and a plastic sheet or a cotton sheet is just a titanium wall. Are you making the same mistake that that bison is making? I got a tweet from one of our followers, and it said, "This is just whales playing games," implying I'll never be able to buy the bottoms, I'll never be able to sell the tops, I'll never be able to make money because I'm not a whale, and if whales play games, I'm just going to drown. I'm just going to be like plankton and either get eaten up or squashed or suffocated, swallowed, and shit out. Whales playing games is whales playing games. And yet, to a bison, a cotton sheet is a titanium wall. It's a granite cliff, impenetrable. You want to be wealthy, you want to be successful, you want to be powerful, you want to be happy, you want to be empowered for the purpose of self-realization. You want to realize and manifest. You need power to be able to take what's in your mind, in your heart, your desires, and project them onto this world. And you don't attract. There's this 20-year-old book or something called The Secret or something that just got that entirely wrong. It was written by a bunch of Christians. That got that whole thing wrong. You don't attract anything. The concept of attraction means that you are separate from something else. In order to attract something, you must be apart from something else so that you can attract it. You're not apart from anything, it's just all one. Neither do you go out and grab something. So you don't go out and grab success. You don't go out and get happiness. You don't go out and become wealthy. Look at the way nature works. This is why Taoism is so beautiful. Taoism, the word Tao is just the word way. It's the way things are. It's the way of the universe. It's the way life unfolds. It's the way things progress. It's the way permutations mutate. And if you notice that, the only thing out of harmony with nature is human beings. Humanity are the only things that's out of harmony with nature. Everything else is in perfect harmony with nature. Except human beings, which is interesting. And there's a reason for that. We don't have to go into that right now, but look at nature. Look at something like A lion. Does a lion chase its prey? You might think yes, in the same way that you might think that your feelings are the source of the problem, whereas they're just the symptom. You know what the lion does before it's... How long does that chase last? Minutes? Sometimes seconds. Literally, sometimes just seconds. Bam! Jumps out of a bush, grabs it, eats, grabs the neck, and bam, it's over. Sometimes, not even minutes, just seconds in general. For the seconds that the lion goes out of its way and chases its prey so that it can eat and feed its cute little cubs that you want to play with and become friends with, so that when you're back in the African Sahara or wherever these jungles are, you'll have a lion friend that comes up to you and instead of eat you, just pets you and stuff, which is the coolest, cutest thing, isn't it? What did that lion do before those 90 seconds that it chased its prey, killed it, and started eating? It spent hours and hours and days and weeks and weeks, what? Sleeping, just sitting there. Sitting there. You're not noticing the mountain of just active nothingness that is just sitting there. And all you're noticing is that 90 seconds of bam, boom, got it, grabbed it, bit it. You don't attract what you want into your life, nor do you go out and try and grab it. You project it from inside you. As far as that lion is concerned, that gazelle running around near that lion's territory, near that lion's feeding, that's all him. The lion doesn't stop at that lion fur or lion wherever the furthest extremity of the lion's claws. The lion stops at the end of his territory. So what he did was he just manifested this gazelle in his territory, because his territory is where there was this little pond of water, where there was this little reservoir or oasis of water in the middle of the desert when right after it rained. So the gazelle had to come in. Did the lion attract the gazelle? No. The lion just sat there and made a gazelle, bam, appear within its territory. That's how it works. Okay, let's say that's subject to interpretation. Well, you could look at it that way, you could look at it this way. The gazelle physically did enter into the lion's territory. That's perspective can change how you interpret whether the lion manifested the gazelle or whether the gazelle was external. Let's look at something else. Spiders. A spider. What does it do? A spider doesn't go out and chase anything. It creates a web. It creates this beautiful web across two vast trees where you have no idea how it jumped from this tree to that tree that's 10 feet away and ended up with a cluster of spider web inside your eyes and nose and mouth as you walked by without noticing. Now you're wondering whether you just ate the spider or whether the spider's on your neck and is going to bite you or not. How did that spider do it? It just created a web and it just waits until that web manifests a fly or an insect or a mosquito. Okay, so maybe that's subject to perspective too. Let's go even further. Trees. Now that's pretty simple, isn't it? A tree can't walk. A tree can't go grab anything. If a tree wants something sweet, guess what it has to do? If a tree wants something pretty, guess what it has to do? It has to create its own flowers. It has to create its own fruit. And it comes out of that tree. Everything just manifests. Everything just makes. And if you don't see that your fingernail is a part of your hand, is a part of your arm, is a part of your body, no, I attracted this cuticle. I had to go out and get this cuticle and add it onto my finger. That's how you're going to look at the world. And that's not how it is. How it is the fingernail comes from your hand, comes from your arm, comes from your body, comes from you. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. Mountain is a mountain. Water is water. Ashes are ashes. And yet, a cotton sheet is a titanium wall, is a granite cliff, impenetrable. I got a text message from a follower that said, Bitcoin is just whales playing games. Implying that it's hopeless, that they're never going to be able to get ahead because I'm not a whale. I can't afford to play games with a little bit of money, which is actually millions of dollars. So I'm never really going to get ahead. I mean, I'll hold, and if I'm lucky, Bitcoin will go up to $1 million. And since I have 0.1 Bitcoin, I'll get $100,000, and maybe that'll be enough money to buy a house in Nebraska. But not enough money to retire. So I'm back to square one. What am I going to do in Nebraska? Guess I could work at the Arby's. Do they even have McDonald's in Nebraska? What I want to ask you is Bitcoin just a game played by whales? What I want to ask you, is a mountain really a mountain? Is water really water? Are ashes really just ashes? Just like, is that cotton sheet or plastic sheet really a titanium wall or a granite cliff? How many Koreans that heard that? 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. How many Koreans do you think that actually heard that Buddhist monk ask that question? Ever ask, is that true? Ever asked and stopped to ask that question, is that true? Everyone just looks at that and goes, yeah, it is. Of course a mountain is a mountain and water is water. How many people ever stop to ask, is that true? I'll never get ahead in life. All rich people are unethical. To become wealthy, you have to sacrifice your ethics. Politicians are liars. Businessmen are scammers. The richer you are, the more crimes you've committed. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. Is that true? Making money is hard. Of course it is. Is that true? Bitcoin will never become worth $1 million each. Is that true? I'm never going to be able to buy the bottoms, never going to be able to sell the tops. Is that true? I'll give you another one. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. Does that make sense? Let's stop for a moment and dig a little deeper. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. after we ask the question, is it true? Let's say we decided after years and years and lifetimes of reflection and meditation, we finally come to the conclusion, you know what? It is. I'll never be wealthy, successful, and happy. You know what? You're right. I'll never be able to buy the bottoms. Sell the, you know what? You're right. I'll never be a millionaire. You're absolutely right. Bitcoin is just whales playing games. I can never compete with that. You're absolutely right. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. Fun, isn't it? What that monk said, once you start meditating into it, meditating through it, all the layers, the onion layers that come up from that simple expression where everyone else just kind of looks and says, okay, monk, make sure you keep that bald head shaved nicely. Nice orange color, it goes well with your eyes. That's about all most people have to say about that. Okay, so let's say that it is true that a mountain really is a mountain and water really is water. Now, where are we going with this? What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself your feelings are the source of your problems, I'm depressed, that's what's causing I'm angry, I'm just chronically pissed off and angry, I'm just chronically, I don't know. There's anger, there's depression, there's fearful. I'm just afraid, I'm just afraid of losing all my money, so I sell Bitcoin. Or my altcoins, so I've lost 30%, I'm afraid of losing 31%, so I sold everything. FUD. I hear some Twitter account just fighting Tether, fighting Bitfinex, saying all sorts of bad things about this person, that person, calling this person, that person a scammer, whatever. Just and it scares me. Maybe they're right. I'm just going to have to sell everything, even at a loss. But at least I still have this much left, even though I lost this much. Fear is what caused me to do it. Okay, if you say that that is what caused you to do it, you're right. If the bison thinks that that sheet, that cotton sheet, I think it has to be black though. I think the color has to be black. Or a plastic sheet. Black plastic sheet. And bisons are huge, right? I'm pretty sure it's a bison. Maybe it's a bull of some other, I don't know. Maybe it's some other bull, but it had horns, from what I remember of this National Geographic show. If you say this thing is a titanium wall or a granite cliff, that is exactly what it becomes. You're absolutely right. So now, if you say that your depression is your fear is your anger is you're absolutely right. Dr. Stephen Covey, was it? I liked one of the things he said. He said he moved to New York or something, and he was from Florida, or vice versa. And someone else from his old neighborhood came up and said, hey, how do you like, I think it's Florida. How do you like Florida? And Dr. Covey told him, well, where are you from? He says, well, I'm from Minnesota. Well, how did you like it there? Everyone's real polite, everyone's kind, everyone's fun, just great neighbors. You'll find that this town in Florida where I moved to is just like that. And then another guy he just happened to come across a little while later said he's from, I don't know, some other Arizona or something. And he said, well, I'm thinking of moving to Florida too, this town in Florida. I heard you moved there. What is it like? How do you like it? And he says, well, where are you from? I'm from Arizona. You know, what was it like there? Arizona? Well, the people are distant. They're aloof. They're not very nice. They keep to themselves. They're kind of rude, actually. They have parking problems everywhere I go. And Dr. Covey told him, you know what? You'll find this town in Florida is just like that. You're right. You're absolutely right. So, what do you do when you're right that this cotton sheet is a titanium wall? What do you do when you're right that you'll never succeed, that you'll never become wealthy and independently wealthy and successful and happy? What do you do when you're right about that? What do you do when you're right that emotions are your problem and you take medication to get rid of that emotion, and you're still just as unhappy, just as poor, just as miserable, just as lonely? The simple way to look at it is that you're wrong. The simple way to look at it is that this granite wall, this titanium wall, is not a titanium wall. It's actually just a cotton sheet or a plastic sheet. That's the simple way of looking at it, right? But that's really hard to do. That's really, really hard to do. That's just like saying a mountain is a mountain. No, it's not. A mountain is not a mountain. A water is water. No, it's not. A water is... Because from your perspective, the way your brain is wired, the way you're conditioned to think and feel and notice and observe, you know how you get the acoustic ceilings, right? You get the acoustic ceilings and you look up, you kind of stare up at the acoustic ceiling and you'll see faces. You know what faces you'll see? You'll see the faces that are in your mind. When you're laying on a park bench looking up at the clouds going by, you'll see animals, you'll see faces in the clouds. You know which faces you'll see in the clouds? The ones that are already in your mind. Because of the way your mind works, if a mountain really is not a mountain, you will not be able to see that. If water is not water, you will not be able to see that. You can put your finger in the water, and maybe it's sand, but that sand will feel wet. You can put your finger in the sand, and then take it out and put it on your tongue, and instead of feeling grimy and gritty and dry and coarse, it'll feel wet and fluid and liquidy, because your mind is conditioned to see what's inside your mind. Just like the clouds show you faces that are not in the clouds but in your mind. Just like the acoustic ceiling shows you faces that are not in the ceiling but in your mind. When you touch water that's not really water and you taste it, it tastes just like water. So you cannot differentiate between this water and real water. 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. To you, if you think this is water, it is water. If you think this is a mountain, it will be a mountain. Just like to the bison, if it thinks it's a granite cliff, it really is a granite cliff. To realize that you can become wealthy, to realize that you can become happy, to realize that you can become whole and not lonely and joyful is impossible when you are poor and think that you cannot become wealthy, lonely and think that you cannot become joyfully together with someone, miserable and think that you cannot become happy. So now you have to take the long way around. The short way was to just realize, oh, this is just a plastic sheet. That's not going to happen. So now what do? You go the long way around. What's the long way around? 산은 산이요, 물은 물이로다. You have to go study and meditate on the nature of a mountain. You have to go study and meditate on the nature of water. Then you study and meditate on the nature of this thing that you think is water, this thing that you think is a rock, this thing that you think is a titanium wall, this thing that you think is whales playing games with Bitcoin, this thing that you think is that you always sell at a loss, that you can't buy the bottoms because everyone's saying it'll drop 50% more. Just like when Bitcoin was $3,200, you didn't buy because you thought it was going to go to $1,800. Now you have to go study the nature of it. Then you'll start realizing, oh, this mountain that I thought was a mountain, now that I'm studying it, mountains are tall. When you get up to the top, there's less oxygen. It's harder to walk at the top than at the bottom. The sounds are different. And then this thing that I think is a mountain is very different. This thing is actually not a mountain. But you only realize that after you take the long way around, the long cut, and you study this thing. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What is the nature of telling yourself something? Your mind is not a calculator. Your mind is not a receiver. Your mind is not a hard disk. It's not a SSD disk. It's not RAM chips. It's not a recording device. Your mind actually sucks at recording stuff. It sucks at recording stuff. You know what your mind is? Your mind is a holographic Genesis machine. You ever watch Star Trek? What was it? Genesis or something? Or I forget what that one was where Spock dies and gets just reborn. You remember that episode of Star Trek? That's exactly what your mind is. Your mind is a holodeck to realideck. Your mind is, I know I just sounded nerdy, right? Your mind is a galaxy generator. Your mind is a quantum generator. It sucks at remembering stuff. I mean, you get yelled at you get yelled at by your beautiful wife or girlfriend all the time because you keep forgetting her birthday, her anniversary, her, I don't know, promotion, her parents' wedding anniversary, your date with her. It sucks at memory. What about calculations? Is it good at calculations? No, you need a calculator. What else is it good at? Is it good at processing stuff, understanding stuff? I mean, what do you get yelled at by your friends that you just don't get it all the time? It sucks at remembering things, calculating things, processing things, understanding things. That's why you had to reread the same paragraphs in all your textbooks over and over and over again. Comprehend. It sucks at all this. Your mind sucks at all this. But you're poor. Rich people are all scammers, and I'm not a scammer. To make money, you've got to be unethical, and I'm very ethical. Women are gold diggers. And since I'm ethical, I don't have much gold. Any gold, actually. Guess what your mind is? Your mind is a 100% perfectly functioning universe generator. What you tell yourself is what you tell yourself. What you tell yourself is the instruction set, is the code base, is the programming language, is the prime directive for your universe generator. So